at Freedom Lifestyle Creation. And this is episode number 4. Yes, number 4 of Ask the Coach, the Consistency Coach Show. So, welcome to the show. And as you remember from the previous episodes, I'm answering questions that people ask me in advance about achieving consistency and maintaining consistency in business and in mindset and all those amazing things. And just before we are starting, I'm just double checking that we're all good on Facebook. Okay, all good. We are also live, in case that you were wondering, on Instagram and on YouTube, and soon we'll be live on other platforms, including TikTok and LinkedIn in the near future. So all, the same thing to all of those platforms. Amazing, right? So I've had some great questions recently, and one of the questions that I've had recently was I've already answered about 2 per episode, so I'll continue doing that like that. I had a question from Rebecca. So Rebecca was asking a really great question, which was, what is the easiest and fastest way to change a habit? Okay, so this is a great question. So what is the easiest and fastest way to change a habit? So there are many ways to change a habit. So I'm actually going to discuss one specific way that I have been using when I do certain work with people. And that way, let's separate. There's different habits, but let's say it's like unwanted habits such as nail biting, or yeah, let's take nail biting or hair twirling or teeth clenching or teeth grinding, or one of those things. Some people, some ladies I know, been like plucking their eyelashes and stuff like that. So those things, of course, can lead to painful stuff. And at the same time, some of them could seem or start small, whereas they could actually end up being quite major or have some other implications, right? Because, for example, teeth grinding, if someone teeth grinds for a long time, they would need, dental treatment and stuff like that, and they're also expensive. So there's a lot of like kind of like things that what's small actually grows to be a rather big issue, especially if it's sustained across time, and it becomes like, problematic for that person. So what's an effective way to get rid of to change a habit? And so type of habit, kind of like unconscious habit, like nail biting. So there is one specific routine, but I'm not going to do this routine. I'm rather going to explain what's the notion based on which that routine works. So in our mind, we have images for everything. So your mind has an image, Rebecca, of nail biting, for example, if you are a nail biter, because I was. And that image basically comes with certain triggers. So, for example, some people typically nail bite when they are nervous, or when they are tense, or when they are concentrating, or when they're focusing on something, or something like that, right? And so they might have an image of them, for example, in their study, like with books, studying for university, for a course, for whatever. Maybe even could be other stuff like helping the kids with homework, or like waiting for someone to message them back online, or whatever that is. There could be a lot of triggers, not necessarily just one. But the more specific we get, we identify those triggers. And because every situation in our mind, like everything we think about or we hear from someone or even just comes to our attention, has images associated with it, it has sounds associated with it in majority of the cases, it definitely has feelings associated with it, even if they are automatic. And a lot of time, those things also come with self-talk, what we say in our own mind, and with taste and smells. So let's call it a sin. The best way to actually use that is by calling it a sin. And a sin could be a still picture, and it could actually be a movie picture, like a moving picture, like a set of like frames, like almost like like a film, because that's what it is. And it comes with like the images and the sounds, including background sounds, what people are saying, what you say to yourself, what you say to yourself in your own head, tastes and smells if relevant, and your feelings and emotions and your sensations in your body. So because every situation has that. It's actually possible to play a legitimate trick on the mind and actually change those to something else, to pick another situation, another sort of like a mini behavior. For example, if I was doing it on nail biting, I would pick another situation that could be like very small and maybe like, maybe another behavior, let's say something like rubbing your hands like that. What we will actually do, we are actually going to shift the picture that is in your mind and all the feelings that comes with it and all the sound that come with it and all that, that when it comes to nail biting, and shift them and and shift the picture such as the new picture of the new habit, in that case like the rubbing your hand like that, takes over, right? So it sounds crazy, but it's actually possible to do that. So that takes typically between 5 and 15 minutes to do something like this. So it works very, very well with unconscious stuff that people are doing, like nail biting, hair twirling, like plucking eyelashes, teeth grinding, teeth clenching, all that kind of stuff. It also works. There's a couple of other really cool examples that I wanted to give how it can be used. And that actually gets to another question that I've been asked by Kat and Lee. Um, and so I was sharing in my group about there is a way. So, for example, a lot of people saying that they are not fluent in certain languages. For example, someone whose English is not the first language, and by the way, mine isn't either. But for some people, it's like an existing, like existential problem that they actually have issues with that, and it stops them from doing stuff in life. It stops them from applying for certain jobs or from getting jobs or from socializing. So it stops them, like it literally is problematic for them, right? It's a real thing, a real dilemma, a real issue. Like maybe it stops them from like doing public speaking or even think about that, like a lot of stuff. So let's take example of someone whose English is not their first language, and say they're Turkish or Romanian or speak Arabic or whatever other language, as their mother tongue. So one of the coolest thing that can be done using a similar routine is you can take, that's actually a bit more advanced, but that's where it gets totally crazy. You can actually take the images and sounds and feelings and the self-talk that that person has when they speak their mother tongue. So say let's make up it's like Turkish, for example. You can take all the collection of all that package, like the images, the sounds, the feelings, the self-talk, the taste and smells, whatever comes when they speak Turkish, and then change all those images of how they see in their mind and they feel and they hear when it comes to English to those of them speaking Turkish or whatever language is their mother tongue. What would that do if you stop for a second? So you borrow from the desired one and pretty much make the one that's not working well for you, the image are kind of failing you every time, you actually not really swapping them, because then you would, if we totally swap them, we would end up getting result that we don't want. We would end up that the person is confident in English, but they're not confident in their mother tongue, which obviously that's that's not what we're trying to do here. So rather than that, we actually borrowing and almost are copying it into English. And what will happen, and I know it sounds completely crazy, what will happen in that particular example is that the person will start right off the bat being super confident in English. It's that crazy. It's that crazy. So we took the whole collection of like that scene or what it means to them in their mind about speaking their mother tongue, and we actually borrowing from that and putting it into, and putting all those good workable things into, in like pretty much instead of that image of the things that are not working in their other language. So if you were following, if you need to watch it again to understand how powerful it is, it's absolutely ridiculously powerful. Now, the other cool thing with that, Kat and Lee, you were asking, there's a couple of things associated with that. You can actually remove unwanted behaviors as well. For example, say I knew of someone that gets like red in the face when like someone giving them like the side eye, like, like this. I'm not sure I even do a good side eye. You know what I mean? Like if someone kind of looks at you funny, so that made that person kind of like blush, like, or become uncomfortable or lose their confidence, or like these people like that say, why are you looking at me like that? But they had like a reaction, and they were internalizing that reaction. They were not necessarily aggressive towards the other person or anything like that. That could actually be addressed as well. But it's actually possible to change that behavior and the reaction they will have into a different reaction. So this is actually, in a sense, quite similar to changing the nail bite into doing this instead. Yeah. So we actually change. So say someone is like blushing and, internalizing it or becoming quiet, and that can change it to something else potentially. That if someone looks at you, you would just like, do, scratch your neck or something like that. Something that is like doesn't look like that it's related to anything, but you would end up doing that instead. So that's really cool. Another one I think I had another example. Let me think. We spoke about the language. We spoke about the nail biting example, or those sort of things. Um, the other one is really cool. Changing, yeah, there's another one that's really good. You can change a way a situation occurs to you to a way another situation occurs to you. This is quite similar in a sense to the language one. Um, but the difference is, I give you a more specific example. So say someone is shy talking to people in the real world, not just online, like in the real world, like face to face, but they're totally comfortable doing it online, on Messenger, on WhatsApp, whatever. So confident online, not confident offline, face to face. It's actually possible to borrow from how the fact of the conversations online occur to them, and pretty much copy that or insert that into how offline conversations face to face occur to them. So that works in exactly the same way as it would if they were just fluent and confident in both. It's crazy to think how simple yet powerful it is. Now, all those examples I gave you in the last 12 minutes, they all take between 5 and 15 minutes to do per thing. Yeah, so that's the cool thing about it. Now, there's I had another, not exactly a question, but I had someone asking me on Messenger, or not necessarily asking, kind of like stating, like there's a lot of like misconceptions about hypnotherapy or hypnosis. So one of the misconception is that people think that it's like a loss of control. So it's kind of like some people think it's like brainwashing or loss of control, or you won't have control. And that lady was telling me, oh, hypnosis, that's like mind control. So it wasn't even a question. So there was no question mark at the end. Like, so um, that made me think of something else I can cover in the remaining time here before I wrap up the fourth episode. And so hypnosis is actually a naturally occurring state. So like the times that you are driving and you suddenly like don't quite know how you go to your home or your workplace or your mate's place, and you notice the traffic lights, and like, because if you don't, like, you probably shouldn't be driving, right? But like you notice like the traffic lights and the traffic and stuff, but kind of like the outline of the road, like the how to get there, it went unconscious. You got there. You know what I mean? Like the time goes by and suddenly you have a notice. Sometime it goes like like that, like whether there's traffic or not. Like another example, frequently in an elevator or a lift, especially going up if it's a tall building. And in now sometimes people on the phone, but let's assume phones don't work in many lifts. A lot of people will be in a lift like this, right? And they will look up and they will just be like tight like sardines if it's like a small lift especially, and say the lift is full, and say you're going from ground floor to like the 10th floor, and someone a lot of time, maybe it's been you, would say when the lift reaches, or the elevator for you American friends, when the lift reaches the 10th floor, oh, are we at the 10th floor? Is it the 10th floor? Oh, have we arrived yet, or whatever? So what actually happened is that you and potentially a lot of other people in the elevator were all in trance. So you're all effectively in hypnosis right there and then, daydreaming. it's a naturally occurring, like it's basically like natural thing that everyone, 99% of population does. That's hypnosis. So all of those states, daydreaming, the lift, driving, watching TV, have you ever tried to get someone who's watching very attentively, like a program or something? Have you tried to get their attention? You know that some people, it's extremely hard to get their attention, stuff like that. My brother is actually one of them. You might as well just come and like bash him or something like that, but like it would still be like it would take you quite a while. Like they will be so fixated on that point of the program. So effectively, any fixation on a point or something like that, like a point in the ceiling, the TV, nowadays, if not TV, it's like your mobile phone or whatever, like that. This is basically, you are in trance. You basically under hypnosis. Let me rephrase it. You are in trance, in hypnosis, not under anything. Yeah. So this is the funny thing, is like it's a naturally occurring state, and all it is, the hypnosis part is the relaxation itself. And why it's called hypnotherapy is that the therapy are the suggestions. Without the therapy, it's just a nice relaxation. The suggestions are the things that make the change. Whereas first we need to get you relaxed. Now, what actually happens? We bypass your critical faculty. We bypass your conscious mind in order for those new ways of being, potential new behaviors and patterns, in order for them to be accepted. The other interesting thing is a lot of people watch or been, because I have in the UK, I've been on a stage show, like, and maybe you've seen in the films, like a mentalist or hypnotherapist, like hypnotizing people, and then they go and dance on the stage and forget their name and they think that the pee is blue. That's basically was the one I was in Blackpool in the UK, like 12 years ago or something like that. 12, 13 years ago. And that was hilarious. And I was actually picked to be on stage, but not as a hypnotized subject, as someone who I had the hypnotized people kind of like dancing around me. And I couldn't like control myself. It was so funny, but like I couldn't really see much because I was like that lying down on the stage facing like the ceiling. So, but I could hear everyone laughing. Now, why didn't he pick me? Now, the stage hypnotherapist, they're very well trained to notice who has the value of wanting to be the center of attention. Listen to that. They know very well, because they're very trained. That's how they get their money, selling the tickets, filling up the show. They know how to spot who are the people that are in the value it is to be the center of attention, whether they voice it or not. So I remember that hypnotherapist, like the stage hypnotherapist, talking to me, and he didn't pick me. He probably noticed that I'm not a suitable subject to be hypnotized. So, and I only realized that when I actually became a hypnotherapist, that they actually trained. What happens is he knows that if he picked me or someone who it's not in the value, in their unconscious values, they will not be performing the stuff that they tell them to do. But why is that? Because when it's against your values, you will not be doing that. So, for example, if that mentalist hypnotherapist, like stage hypnotherapist, got someone tell them, "I want you to go now. You're going to go and rob a bank." The only people that would actually do that, and that there's pretty much hardly any chance that we'll find someone like that will be on the stage and like literally that, is someone whose crime or life of crime at that particular given moment is in their value unconsciously. Like, so, and then someone actually might actually go and do that. Like, yeah. But if you would say that to those people that he got dancing and forget their name and your pee is blue and all that, he would tell them, go and rob a bank, they will be like, no, because you're in full control. This is the thing. You are in full control. That's the crazy thing about it. People think you are not in full control, but in hypnosis, you will not be doing anything that's against your values. And the stage hypnotherapist knows how to, he knows how to notice who's got that the value of being center of attention. So he will only choose people like that, so he can then be successful every time. How amazing is that, right? So just wanted to kind of like prove the point with a bit of a story and my own experience like with that. And with that being said, I went a bit over because I really wanted to cover that about hypnosis and the fact that no, it's not like a loss of control, and it's a naturally occurring state. There's no mind control. You're in full control. You are awake all the time, even if even if you're very relaxed and you are like deep in trance, you are still awake and in control all the time. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know your main takes from this episode. And until the next time, have an amazing night or morning or day or afternoon, wherever you are. Ciao from me, Noishani, the consistency coach at